so much for joining us today. What a beautiful crowd. What a beautiful performance. You've had a long history with Stephen Sondheim. You started in the West End production of Passion. You played Mary in the 1992 production of Merrily, and now being involved with this production. On top of that, of course, you're a very close friend of Sondheim's. Can you tell us how you've, honor his legacy, in your work?
Well, so first of all, thank you guys. You've really filled my heart, because this is the first time we've heard it with a proper audience that wasn't involved in stuff. And I'm just so grateful to you for just reminding me, when you get so lost in the work, you kind of, you come out and you watch it. I watched it for fresh today. I mean, Stephen Sondheim, George Furth, excuse me, I was lucky to be working with him. So yes, I've known him for 40 years. In short, I've done every part that he wrote, apart from 2, which I'm still waiting to play. So, what was the actual question? How do I?
How have you been honoring his legacy in the production
Well,
of Merrily?
You just have to let him do the talking. The man is unmatchable, and it's just about being. He writes with such detail. You can see that it changes second by second, and so I just get into the detail of his work. And while you're working with somebody that brilliant, you're safe. I mean, as long as you shine the light on his work, that's all you can do, really.
And you're mainly a stage and screen actor, but directing this project, you seem like the exact right person for it. But what made you want to direct?
Make me want to direct?
Yes.
This particular piece?
Well,
or
the
just
stage
general?
production.
Generally, that was a whole load of life circumstances. I had an illness, and I have 2 children, and when you're an actor, you have to do 8 shows a week, or you're away a lot. And I just decided at this particular time in my life that I wanted to put my children to bed, and I wanted to stay creating. And as I carried on doing TV and concerts, but the 8 shows a week thing was just not on the cards for a while. Not because I wasn't well enough to do it. I made a choice not to. And directing came in front of me, and it just felt like a glove that fitted. I felt so comfortable doing it, because as a performer, I want the detail. So as a director, and I get amazing casts like these, amazing people, and you're just trying to extract all those bits that they don't even know they have in them. It's about just kind of just constantly reminding people that they have more. They have more, and I have more, and the piece has more. I could carry on. Anybody who knows me and my work, I have a notebook full of things that I wished I had done, in each production. I've done Merrily for so many years now that my notebook is actually quite small now, because I've been able to revisit it and revisit it and revisit it. But with the constraints of, can you imagine? That was done in 3 live shows, that film. Live shows. That's the real performance that you're seeing. This is not something that we sort of made up. And then we had 6-hour specials. So on stage, where we could build out the stage and get onto stage to take some of those reaction shots that I was so desperate to get to, because we only had 4 cameras, like 1, 2, and then 1 there and 1 there. So Sam Levy and I, we just storyboarded this within an inch of its life. So we weren't doing filming from the front where we were just capturing the stage. We made decisions and choices about getting into the faces of these people, into the psychology, into the reaction shots, the stuff off the ball that, yes, you can see in an audience, but I actually wanted to choose what you looked at. And as you can see, the Mary responses, as you build those up, you begin to feel so much for her. So it was such a glorious thing to be able to do. But, you always want more time, more cameras, more time.
So you did approach the film, the proshot musical, a little bit differently from...
Entirely different. It had to be different. I mean, we had one camera that was doing kind of, you know, a wide shot, catching everything. There's sort of just no energy in that. I mean, the joy of being in a theatre is you're collectively picking up energy. When you put a camera up front, and there's something about a body and feet on a stage that just doesn't work. It just feels like you're just missing something. So I just knew that I wanted to get right in there. So no, we spent, I mean, literally hours and hours dissecting the big picture into slithers of storyboarding. Yeah.
You mentioned that you wanted to get really close to the face, and I think that's actually something quite unique about a proshot musical that I don't see in other proshots. And of course, when you get so close, the blocking of movement has to be so much more specific. Can you tell us about that process?
Yeah, well, it's not really a choreographic piece, you know, so therefore, you know, I'm not missing anything by going in. I think what we did, of course, because when I conceived this as a theatre piece, I wanted a holding pen, a kind of photo frame where it doesn't change. I mean, all we change is maybe a photograph. You know, or a painting. So I knew that we had no location. And of course, as in film, you're used to location. Also, the really difficult thing was lighting. The lighting for theatre pumps up and pops up all over the place. So post, we were spending our time shutting down the space because it's a white set. So you'd have this lovely little face and this big white dominant set behind you. So I had to make sure that when we were in colour, we were shutting everything down, locking down the space, because we don't change location. So it had to be the human beings that took us. Our souls were being taken by the story and not the location. I mean, my goodness, the luxury of having location where you can actually light the face. There were some shots we had when we went into the editing suite and we looked at close-ups of Daniel sometimes, and he just had 2 black holes for eyes because the lighting and the shadows. So we had to find a tiny bit of white in his eye and then with brilliant technicians paint the white around his eyes so we could see his eyes. And we had to do that several times because, you know, you'd go for the shot that you thought you'd got and you couldn't use it. And then we'd think, okay, how can we make this way work? All the faces have got 3 layers. We have, first of all, we soften it, grade it with the colour, and then a bit of haliation so that it has a glow. Otherwise, it's just flat. And so the process, all the stage was lots of marks all over it. We AI'd them all out. I mean, that takes forever. So when you do see feet, you're not seeing where the furniture should land or any of those things. Things like the mics that people wear. Right at the beginning, there were hundreds of mics, and I was like, right, well, that's that then, because no one's going to actually believe these are people. They're immediately actors on a stage, and we had to stop that. So thanks to John Kamen and his patience, and going out looking for a little bit more money, we took them all out. And it's things like that, those sort of details, so that you're able to just stay with those characters that doesn't normally happen in a capture. I was allowed to approach it as a film, which I'm so grateful for, because I think it really works.
So it was a conscious decision to kind of immerse the audience into like a film, really,
Yeah.
instead of a stage
100%,
production.
100%. Yeah, because I mean, there is nothing, you can't put a stage show on screen and not lose something. You can't. I mean, I wanted you to have a gain, not a loss. I didn't want you to think, oh, I wish I'd been there. You were there, you were in it, you were with them, you were seeing something more. It was an add-on, not a takeaway, I think. I hope. That's what I work for anyway.
And you mentioned earlier about the editing process, deciding when to cut to a reaction shot. Can you expand on that?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm very keen when I'm directing. I'm always thinking filmically. I'm always thinking of close-ups, 2 shots, what I'm trying to achieve. And I know that when I'm using lights on a stage, I'm making sure that the person that you're meant to be seeing is in that two shot. So when he says something, you're also able to catch the reaction. But on a big stage, you know, I can't dictate whether you are interested in that or not and look around and then miss it. So I was just determined, nothing was imposed. That is what was happening every night. This is the story I wanted you to see, because it was happening every night. I didn't suddenly say to them, today, can you do that because we've got a camera on you? So it was just about picking out those things. Things like, this is the other thing I think is just astounding. So, of course, it was a live audience. There was a point where we did the film and we took out the audience, and it was like a vacuum, because obviously the actors are timing their lines according to all of you. So if we took the audience out, it was suddenly, it was like nothing was happening. So I then layered them in as another character, just very gently in the background, sort of allowing you in, but not dominating, because they were hugely loud. This was the last week after the Tonys, and there's an edit point in It's a Hit where Jonathan gets the tape recorder, and that moment I had to ask him to give me an edit point where he just stood still, because I'm not exaggerating, they clapped sometimes for over 4 minutes, like went berserk. So we had to sort of use those edit points. But the sound, if you can imagine, when you're lucky enough to have a film set, you know, you're able to control the sound. We had 13-piece orchestra, all of whom have live mics, so they're all open. And then the 22 people on stage with live mics, all open. So when we first got the sound back for this, it was unbelievably depressing. I was like, whoa. So we then went into a studio with this extraordinary, again, remember, I worked with the most amazing editor, Spencer Averick, and then Sam Levy, the cinematographer, who did Lady Bird, which has a sequence of Merrily We Roll Along in it, who's just this giant, a giant talent, but a huge giant as well. But then I went into Parabolic, which was Lou. He said it was the most difficult thing he'd ever done because I couldn't let it go. I had to shut down every single mic, find ambient sounds for every scene. So we built back everything, and then bit by bit built back up the track of, because Jonathan Tunick is a genius, and I could not bear the fact that it was a wash of sound. So we built every instrument, bringing out the tunes, bringing out the brass, bringing out the strings, making sure that was happening, and then shutting all the other sound mics down, because you just hear footsteps and people coughing and all this stuff. And it was like, so we had to shut all that out and then rebuild it back again, and then make it so that the audio, look at me stand up, get so excited, but then made sure that the dialogue matched the singing, that we didn't go like, because it was an amazing juggling act, because it was a live show. I dream one day, it was just like having the chance of just going, right, mic's off, let's have this and everything. But anyway, I think the technical team of people who are top of their tree both guided me and let me have my dream. They worked with me to get what I wanted without ever letting me down. I'm very, very grateful to them.
Absolutely. Yeah, give it up. Your team and you definitely captured the performances so beautifully and so in detail. I really enjoyed Jonathan, Daniel, and Lindsay's performance. They complemented each other so beautifully. Were those three already on the short list in the beginning of your casting process?
It was a long casting, but I took 6 months looking for my Frank, because I knew he had to have complexity and heart. The piece is about love. Franklin Shepard Inc. is a love story. It's a duet. It's about, I miss you, I love you. It's not an angry song. And Frank, when you interrogate the script, it's so lovely when you're working with someone like Steve. He likes you to reinvent. He likes you to look at something and see what you want to bring to it of yourself. And I looked at the script and I saw all the way through there were parents in it. apart from Frank and Gussie. And you have to learn how to love. You have to be shown how to love. And the tiny little clues in that script about him joining the army, not at a point where you had conscription, looking for family, so I felt that he was a scholarship boy, and that he was not guilty. No one in that story is guilty. They may make mistakes. We all make mistakes. It's about being fallible, fragile, human. And the story finishes when they're in their 40s. So you have a chance to reset. If you have some sort of introspection, you take some culpability of your part in a story, you may not be able to make that better, but you can take a better step forward in the future. So I don't see Frank as guilty, which meant I had to find somebody who didn't just wear a good suit. He had to have massive heart. And anyone who knows Jonathan, he's heart first. He's a seriously good human being. And he can't help, however vile he's being on stage, I like him. I care about him. I mind about him. And I think I cast always like that. I think, we can all play cold, but I think, you want a beating heart on a screen or on a stage. You want to be able to somehow see yourself in those people. So Jonathan first, that took 6 months. Daniel greenlit it. He actually came to see the show in London, where it had a fantastic, it's still the most 5-star reviewed musical in history. Tiny little thing, and just it happened and went. But he came to the audience. So when I thought about him and approached him, his team came straight back and said he's always wanted to play that role. So he gave us the kind of green light to go ahead and do it. And Lindsay got mentioned by 3 or 4 different people. I auditioned quite a few people, but she was definitely, there's just something about the 3 of them, and they adore each other, become firm friends, and will be lifelong friends. Then you've got the brilliance of Katie Rose Clark and Reg, sort of extraordinary performances, but stretching what they have into mattering and meaning something. Amazing.
Absolutely. I think we can open it up for some audience questions.
Yeah.
Yes, in front.
Well, first of all, I had the privilege of seeing both the off-Broadway and the Broadway production, and you did a beautiful job.
Thank you so much.
You really did. It just really popped.
Thank you so much.
But I'm actually curious, because this is such a famously failed piece before you came to it. What do you think the key was in making it really work in your production where it didn't work before?
We're going to repeat the question so you can all hear.
The question is about what was the key from a failed musical to a successful one?
Well, I mean, I didn't approach it as a failed musical. I played the part of Mary when I was in my 20s. And Steve, this is where we started our friendship. He said to me, Mary, who's this alcoholic, throws everything around you. He said, be careful. That came too easily. So it's like, but what I noticed is that I don't believe you can lie to an audience. I think they get it like that. And if you ask for the first over an hour, for people to believe that 20-year-olds are triple divorcees, alcoholics, lawyers, you've lost them before you start. So I knew I had to cast older. So I think that really is the key. And loving the people. I don't judge them. I don't think they're vile. I like them. I want to spend time with them. So I think it's that, really. Yeah.
Behind, yeah.
Congratulations. It's an amazing production, and it's so wonderful to get to see it. And just, you brought so much empathy to Frank Shepard. It's not an easy thing to do, necessarily. It's just fantastic. It's amazing capture. I have an anecdote and then a question.
Okay.
So,
Do you want a mic so that people can hear? It seems a bit of a shame. Have we got a spare mic? Because it just seems a shame. She's saying lovely things about me and you're not hearing it.
I'll repeat it.
Oh, what I said was, I thought it was a stunning capture and an amazing production, and it's wonderful to get to see it, and that there was so much empathy brought out or felt for Franklin Shepard, which is not an easy thing to do. And I loved your point about how they're in their 40s and we can change. So that's amazing. So I have an anecdote and then a question. So I had the opportunity to direct Merrily in Chicago, and I got to meet Steve at an event. And I said, "Hi, my name's Jessica. I'm going to be directing Merrily." And he said, "I'm very sorry to hear that." So I know he loved you and admired your work and your productions. And I'm just wondering, how much was he involved? And also, did he mumble that kind of stuff under his breath, like in the midst of it? Like, I know he loved this, so I'm just so curious.
Yes, he always had. He was the funniest man, and he loved to give a good kicking when he could. I always thought Steve was like, slap. But when I did it, and he said, "Go ahead and do it." I called him up and I said, I'm going to be doing this for you, and what do you want me to do? He was like, really can't stand the reverential stuff, and he just said, "Don't do it for me, do it for you, and then show it to me. If I don't like it, trust me, you'll know." And he came to see it when we were in London, and we sort of found him lying in between various rows of wailing. And he was meant to be going the next night somewhere else, and he cancelled and he stayed. And that was the beginning of this long journey. But he really did not, he wanted people to put themselves into the parts he wrote. By the way, anybody who watches, who loves Steve, and I guess all of you in this room do, otherwise you wouldn't still be here. He's one of the few people who leave space for the performer. He's such an incredible writer, like Shakespeare, that he gives you a fantastic detailed outline, but then he leaves the director and the actor to pour in the humanity, because he's smarter than anybody in the room ever. So he's already smart. So we get that for nothing. But what we have to bring as the performers is our hearts, because you can't write that. That's the missing bit. That's the living human being that can. So you can cast Mary any shape, I wouldn't say any age, but any shape, any type, any color, anything. The point is who you are, what you bring. And then everything has a knock-on effect in the production. You cast one person like this, that will make you cast the next person like that. You're looking for all the shapes of humanity, emotionally. Yeah.
We can take one last question. Yes, over here.
Hi there. First off, I just want to say I think just phenomenal job. I think one thing that's amazing with musicals is the ability to adapt and change, and from production to production, nothing is ever the same. And I'm very curious where you look back and say, hey, I want to take something from this, and where you want to save the magic of another performance, and what you want to leave behind, as well as what do you hope. I know that there's movies and future productions. What do you hope for the future of these performances? Take and leave behind.
Interesting, isn't it? Because you guys make the difference between one. That's why I said give more, you get more back. It's something about the relationship between, and screen sometimes stops you doing this sort of more internal, introverted response. Today won't be like any other showing of the film. It's this group with these people that responded to it in your own way. And I feel that's what art is that each one of you will take home your version of what moved you, what touched you. And if you see this particular film again, and I do urge you to watch it more than once, because it really does speak more the more you get to know it. I would suggest that it changes along with you. You know, when I first got involved with Merrily We Roll Along in my 20s, I hadn't had half the things that happened to me. And I was able to look at it in one way, and I looked at these people and I was like, well, that's not going to be me. And then, bits of it were me. And I did go through some really very difficult things, like we all do if you get past 50. I'm waiting. And so therefore, I mean, I really do believe that telling stories is about letting you decide what's all right. I mean, for me, questions are better than answers. I'm always left with a lot of questions when I love something. Something that, I suppose one thing that I would hope that people take away, and I'm not sure if I understood your question quite, but one thing I would hope, and has happened repeatedly in every version that I've done of this, people have been aware that maybe they haven't been as mindful as they could have been about maybe a friend or somebody they haven't called or something that maybe needs addressing. And I had a lot of people say they rekindled friendships, things that they kind of felt too embarrassed to pick up the phone because it's been too long or write that email. And I'm not advocating, I would hate to tell you what to do, but it seems to me that that has a very powerful impact about friendship. People say it's a showbiz musical. No, it's not. It isn't. It's not about selling out. And by the way, I couldn't have missed Steve more today because that line in the show which says musicals are popular, they're a great way of stating important ideas that make a difference. Steve wanted every one of his musicals to be made into a film so it could go everywhere, that you didn't have to just go to Broadway, that you could get those ideas in Oklahoma, in wherever it was. And that's why I'm literally so delighted that Michael Barker and Sony have taken this so that people are going to go and see it. And people like Jonathan Groff, for instance, who came from, he was an Amish boy in a farm, and he was a gay Amish boy. I mean, that just was not something that was even thought about. And he escaped because of musicals, and he found them and he listened to them under his pillow, and it was his little secret, and it drew him all the way into New York, where he now does it for a living. And he said it literally saved him. And I believe these sort of stories in the corners of the world will find people who need seeing and hearing. And that's why I believe in art so much, is to find those little corners. So, yeah.
That's a beautiful takeaway, and I think the perfect ending to our conversation. Thank you all so much for coming, and please give it up once more for Maria Friedman.
Thank you. And I believe these sort of stories in the corners of the world will find people who need seeing and hearing. And that's why I believe in art so much, is to find those little corners. So, yeah.